Royal watchers, brace yourselves. What you are about to hear is not just a story of a prince and a queen, but a royal heartbreak so piercing it could change how we view the Danish monarchy forever. Behind palace walls and glittering public appearances lies a cold and devastating truth. Prince Joachim of Denmark, the youngest son of Queen Margrethe II, will inherit absolutely nothing from the monarch he has loyally served all his life. In a shocking royal decision, every crown, every title, every royal jewel, and legacy is flowing not toward both sons, as one might expect in a modern monarchy, but solely into the hands of his older brother, King Frederik X. For decades, the Danish royal family has portrayed a harmonious image: gracious monarchs, elegant queens, and children brought up with a deep sense of royal duty. But in recent years, the cracks have begun to show, and the fracture between Prince Joachim and the rest of the royal household has now reached its most painful peak. The public has been stunned by Queen Margrethe's cold but calculated inheritance decision. Nothing of the royal estate, not even honorary titles or significant lands, will be passed to her youngest son. Every ounce of her legacy will flow straight into the already weighty hands of her heir, King Frederik. A decision that, though royal tradition may justify it, feels like a sword through the heart of a family member left in the shadows. Let's not forget that Prince Joachim was once seen as the modernizer of the monarchy, the intellectual one, the global diplomat, the man who stood alongside his mother at countless events, who studied at elite military institutions across Europe, and who moved to France not in exile, but in service. He sacrificed proximity to family to serve Denmark's interests abroad. And yet, when the time came to secure his legacy, the royal gate was shut on him with stunning finality. What's even more heartbreaking is that Prince Joachim reportedly had no idea the decision would be so absolute. Sources close to the palace claim he believed a small inheritance, a symbolic estate, or at least partial access to family heirlooms would be granted to him. Instead, what he received was silence, and then exclusion. The crown jewels, the ancestral properties, the ceremonial regalia, even the intimate letters and documents from generations past, none of these will be entrusted to Prince Joachim or his children. Instead, they are to remain tightly bound to the lineage of King Frederik alone. And the pain doesn't end there. Queen Margrethe's move to strip Prince Joachim's 4 children of their royal titles last year was already a thunderous blow. The announcement, delivered without personal consultation, left Joachim publicly heartbroken. One could see it in his eyes during interviews, how a man who served his country and family with dignity could be cast aside so easily. It wasn't just a title lost. It was heritage, identity, and public respect, all taken in one royal stroke. But why would a queen, known for her warmth and intellect, choose to alienate one son while uplifting the other? The answer may lie in palace politics, long-standing traditions, and a hidden history of rivalry between Frederik and Joachim. For years, whispers swirled in royal circles about a growing distance between the brothers. While Frederik was groomed for kingship, Joachim was often sent on alternative paths. Whether it was military postings, diplomatic missions, or roles that seemed important but distanced him from the royal core, Joachim has always been the royal spare, never the center of power, never the ultimate heir. Queen Margrethe, many believe, was determined to preserve the monarchy's strength through unity. In her view, concentrating inheritance and titles within King Frederik's immediate family was the only way to ensure a solid, undivided future for the Danish crown. But at what cost? Unity in law, perhaps, but division in blood. The Queen's decision has reportedly left the royal family emotionally fractured, with Prince Joachim and his wife Princess Marie now permanently residing in Washington, D.C. after years in Paris, far from Copenhagen, and further from any royal spotlight. Some royal historians argue that this was always the plan. That from the moment Frederik was born, Joachim was destined for a role that served, not shared, the crown. In older European monarchies, it's not uncommon for younger sons to receive nothing, no castles, no lands, not even ceremonial titles. But Denmark, admired for its modern approach to royalty, has shocked many by reverting to this ancient, almost feudal pattern. Joachim's supporters argue this isn't just about tradition, it's personal. They say Queen Margrethe favored Frederik from the start, that she saw in him the future she dreamed of, and that, despite Joachim's qualifications and service, she never fully saw him as essential to the royal machine. In family photos, At state dinners, and even in formal speeches, Joachim's absence, or minimal acknowledgement, has become glaringly obvious. The writing has been on the palace wall for years, but no one expected it to be written with such finality. Even Danish citizens are divided. Some side with Queen Margrethe's vision of a streamlined monarchy, arguing that dividing wealth and power weakens royal influence. Others see it as a cruel betrayal of a son who did everything asked of him, who wore the uniform, delivered the speeches, and bowed to the crown, only to be discarded like a footnote in royal history. The Danish press has been ablaze with headlines, and social media has erupted with hashtags like Justice for Joachim and Royal Snub. King Frederik, now at the center of it all, has chosen silence. He has made no public comment on the inheritance issue or his brother's exclusion. Some interpret this as dignified restraint. Others see it as complicity. After all, Frederik could have intervened. He could have advocated for his brother. But instead, he has seemingly accepted the totality of the royal transfer, legacy, estate, and memory, all for himself and his children. And what of Prince Joachim's children? They've now been stripped of their royal status and are expected to live as private citizens, without security, without ceremony, without the protection or privilege their royal birth once promised. This sudden descent from royal to commoner has been jarring. Though Joachim insists he wants his children to live free lives, the reality is they are now burdened with a past they're no longer allowed to claim. It's not liberation, it's exile dressed as modernity. As for Queen Margrethe, this inheritance decision may be her final royal act, a move she believes will strengthen the crown. But to many, it's a heartbreaking epilogue to a reign that was supposed to be about unity, resilience, and maternal love. Instead, she may be remembered not just as the queen who abdicated, but the mother who chose one son and cast out the other. As Prince Joachim settles into his new life abroad, far removed from the marble corridors and opulent halls of Amalienborg Palace, the emotional weight of his exclusion continues to loom heavily, not just on his shoulders but across the entire Danish royal narrative. Once a respected member of the royal frontline, the prince is now seen attending diplomatic functions in a quiet, more subdued role, representing Denmark not as a future statesman, but as a man estranged from his own legacy. The symbolism is chilling. A prince without a kingdom, a son without inheritance, and a father watching his children's noble heritage dissolve before their eyes. And this isn't just personal loss, it's cultural loss. Prince Joachim carried with him centuries of Danish history, bloodlines that trace back to Europe's most prominent royal dynasties. To silence that branch of the family is to turn away from a rich tapestry of tradition that could have been shared and preserved. The Danish monarchy, revered for its progressive posture, now stands accused of regression. A monarchy that once seemed to evolve with the times is now clinging to old-fashioned hierarchy at the cost of familial unity. Observers also point to Joachim's consistent loyalty as a reason the decision stings with such cruelty. Even after his children's titles were stripped in 2022, Joachim held back from lashing out against his mother in the press. He gave interviews, yes, but always with restraint. He spoke not with malice, but with heartbreak. He didn't demand titles or money, only respect. Yet his pleas seemed to fall on deaf ears. If there was ever a moment for reconciliation or acknowledgement, it never came. And what of Queen Margrethe's motivation? Was it truly about strengthening the crown, or preserving control over who gets to write the royal story? Some insiders have suggested that Margrethe feared the monarchy becoming too broad, or diluted by multiple heirs pursuing their own interpretations of royal duty. In this version of the narrative, narrowing the line of inheritance to Frederik alone becomes a calculated act of image control. But that choice leaves a painful trail, one that distances the crown from the people who once believed it to be a symbol of unity and family above politics. It's impossible to ignore how this decision has impacted public perception of Queen Margrethe herself. For decades, she was beloved for her art, her intellect, her ability to connect with Danes across generations. She was Daisy, the approachable monarch with a warm smile and sharp wit. But since the title stripping and inheritance scandal, public opinion has fractured. While some still revere her reign, others now question whether personal favoritism and dynastic control have clouded her final royal decisions. Meanwhile, King Frederik is now walking a tightrope. He holds all the power, titles, properties, legacy, and yet his silence has created a chasm between him and those who feel Joachim deserved more. Will he act in the future to right this imbalance? Or will he cement his reign by continuing the policies his mother enforced? The choices Frederik makes in the coming years will not only define his legacy as king but also shape how future generations remember the royal family's most painful rift. For Princess Marie, Joachim's wife, the experience has been equally taxing. A fiercely intelligent and capable woman, Marie has stood by her husband through every twist in this unfolding royal tragedy. Her expressions during public appearances often reveal the strain of navigating a system that seems intent on excluding her family. She, too, gave up a life of privacy to join the royal family, and now finds herself fighting to protect her children's dignity without the shield of royal status. What remains particularly troubling is the fate of Prince Joachim's children. Count Nikolai, Count Felix, Count Henrik, and Countess Athena are now in a strange in-between space, born royal, raised royal, but no longer officially royal. Their names are no longer preceded by prince or princess, and they no longer receive the public funding or ceremonial responsibilities that once defined their place in society. And yet, the public continues to watch them closely, fascinated by how these young adults will redefine themselves in a world that denied them their birthright. In recent months, Joachim's eldest son Nikolai, now a successful model and university student, has spoken cautiously but thoughtfully about his changing role. Though he claims not to harbor bitterness, his words carry a wistful tone, a longing for something lost. That longing is echoed by thousands of Danes who grew up seeing the royal children as a united family, a symbol of national pride and togetherness. Now, that image feels like a distant dream. International media has also begun to take notice. From Paris to New York, headlines question the wisdom of Denmark's royal consolidation. In a world where most monarchies are embracing inclusivity and modern reform, Denmark's decision to shrink its royal circle is seen by many as tone-deaf. What message does it send when loyalty, duty, and family devotion are met with exclusion and silence? And while the Danish court insists that the decision was administrative and necessary for the future of the monarchy, it's clear the emotional cost is far greater than anticipated. Prince Joachim's dignified but visible pain, Queen Margrethe's shrinking public warmth, and King Frederik's cautious diplomacy have created an atmosphere of unease around a family once praised for its authenticity. But perhaps the final chapter has not yet been written. The future remains uncertain, and redemption is always possible in royal history. Will Prince Joachim ever be welcomed back into the heart of the Danish monarchy, not just in ceremony but in legacy? Will his children find a new form of public life that honors their heritage? Will King Frederik find a way to bridge the emotional divide and bring his brother into the fold once again? As the world watches and waits, one can't help but wonder, in choosing tradition over compassion, has the Danish monarchy secured its future, or doomed its soul? Make sure to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and share this video with fellow royal watchers.